Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this discussion, walkthrough, show and tell. I don't know what to call this because I've definitely been into this deck already, but we are going to be talking about Seasons of the Witch, the Samhain Oracle, illustrated by Giada Rose, created by Lorianne Anderson and Juliet Diaz. This is a Rockpool Publishing deck. I have been keeping my eyes on this, and I will admit I was incredibly impatient about this deck. In fact, on Amazon in Canada, it was showing that it wasn't going to release until like October 26th, and I was like, that's not going to work, folks, because I want to be able to start working with this deck right away. It's October. I need my pause on this deck right now. So I actually went to Book Depository. They had copies in stock in their Australian location. And the neat thing about Book Depository is when you go there, it'll ship either from the UK or from Australia or from wherever they have stock. And I was really, really excited. So I ordered it and it came in. It only took, I would say to Canada, I think it took about a week and a half. It wasn't long. I feel like it was actually kind of shockingly fast. But I got my paws on this deck right away because what I realized I wanted to do is share more than just first impressions. I haven't worked with it, but I have spent a good amount of time looking at the artwork and the cards. I read the entire guidebook cover to cover. So this is a little bit different than the way I normally do these, but I wanted to bring more than I normally bring. So first things first, Seasons of the Witch, the Samhain Oracle. As far as I know, this was originally an independent deck. It is now, like I said, a Rockpool Publishing deck. And the creators of the deck, Lorianne and Juliet, do mention in the guidebook that they eventually want to do all 8 Sabbats. So I don't know how far along they are on that process or when we can expect the rest. But if they're anything like this, I will be first in line for those because I think the way this is done is just, it's really beautifully done. So let's get into it. First of all, the box is really nice, 2-piece thumb cutouts. It's a deck-sized box. There's not too much shift for the cards. Ticks all my boxes again there. And the box is beautiful with this red foil stamping on it. It's just gorgeous. And you even get the red foil stamp for the Rockpool logo and along the side of the box as well. Like it's every attention to detail is so well thought out on this deck. Oh, I didn't read you the back. So it says, harness the intuitive powers of the year's most magical night. Samhain is one of the most potent and magical nights of the year for performing divination, ritual, and spells. Now you can experience the magic and electric energies of this sacred night all year long with Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. This beautifully designed and illustrated book and 44-card deck set will connect you to the spirit realm to bring healing, understanding, protection, and guidance. Original poetry from Juliet Diaz works as invocations for magic and ritual, while intuitive guidance from Lorianne Anderson will take you through your personal readings. Finally, the beautiful artwork of Giada Rose will transport you to two new worlds. Unlock the secret insights with spells and recipes to make the most of Samhain energy. This deck has such an independent feel to it. There is a substantial guidebook, which we're going to be talking about, but I want to start with the cards because, of course, that is what we're all here for. First of all, these backs are stunning. The inside of the box features this blood red sort of fabric. Well, it's not blood red. It's a bright brick red, I would say, with that moon logo. It's really beautiful. There is so much Samhain aesthetic in this deck, but what's really exciting too is that in addition to these gorgeous red backs, you also have this stunning red gilding. So pretty. Now this is a glossy deck. I'm not sorry though. And again, I have mixed feelings about glossy decks. When it comes to oracles, I'm a lot more forgiving of gloss. And actually, I don't really even mind gloss on tarot so much for my own use. I do struggle with gloss because I like to film working with decks quite a lot. So of course, that's a little bit of a challenge because of glare, but not the end of the world. And I think I don't know, this deck just has such a special feel. So this is where we're going to go. So I've got to figure out a good way. I guess I will zoom us in a bit. Let's see where we're going to be here. That should be good. So a couple things I want to point out about the cards. There are 3 categories of cards within the deck. So it mentions this in the guidebook, but there are Samhain-based cards, familiars, and so and Witch's Tools. So Witch's Familiars, Witch's Tools, and then Samhain-based cards. They're all Samhain appropriate, and again, the artwork is very like hauntingly beautiful. And these words, I've never had a deck that does this. I've had decks where the guidebooks do this, where they have sort of a little bit of poetic kind of feel to them, but I've never had that right on the cards like this, and I feel like it just makes this deck really special. So I don't know if I'm gonna read them all. We'll see. What am I going to do? I don't know. Okay, well, let's just dive in and see what happens. All Hallows Eve. No, I'm going to read them. Forget it. I'm going to read them. All Hallows Eve. Call upon the voices that stir your senses through the night. Cast an unforgiven howl as you stomp your might through the ground. Altar. A sacred devotion, a worship skin deep, rising from the ash, the waters you keep. And the altar card, I mean, oh gosh, these are so, so beautiful. This just to me is such a homey kind of card. I know that sounds kind of trippy, but just this is a very like usable looking altar with lots of tools on it, and just, it feels like a working altar, not just a decorative altar, if that makes sense. Ancestors, they hiss a quivering so deep only roots of your soil can lift the nakedness hidden within the vows made in silence. An ancient chill walking upon the spine. And you have this like sort of sleeping or lying figure here, and these other figures sort of walking along behind. Apples. To taste, one must swallow it whole, and beneath the satin flame hides drowning waters. It's beautiful, this birch in the back, and then this basket of apples. Oh, okay. And like as we go through too, a lot of these meanings really start to make sense. Or I'm going backwards. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. So for example, let me just think here. In Ancestors, the messages in the guidebook had to do with like actually like being protected by those who are watching over you. In Apples, it really calls on sort of the fairy tale concept of poisoned apples and like beware what's being offered to you, that kind of thing. This Banshee card is wicked. I love it. Banshee, I heed my warning, dear child, for what I hold is far from unsung lullabies. Swallow a nail and you can expect bleeding from within. Again, very much a warning kind of card. Bat, invoke thy power and fear not the hidden. What lurks is coming with undenying change. Black Cat, there's a curious journey into the depths of the unknown, hidden so deep that only the brave will gracefully return with light in their eyes and shadow leading home. Broom, what dreams may come from what you seek, make room, make way, a clearing need be. And brooms, in witchcraft besoms, brooms are used as a form of cleansing, of clearing or sweeping away that which doesn't serve or negative energies, that sort of thing. Speak your breath into its velvet. Speak your breath into its velvet. Recite along its spine all that you desire, all that which will unravel. So spell work here, and a need for spell work. Cauldron, bewitching, yes it be. Blink and you shall see a bubbling desire left in the brewing rain. So pretty. Coming of Winter. I don't think I'm going to actually read all of them, but you get the feel for sort of the words that are here. And just going through this deck for the first time and reading those words, it had such an impact, and it felt very potent for me, and I loved that. A lot of this feels like preparing for the winter time, which is really cool. Crystals and herbs. This is wonderful. This is a part of practice, and it's also to me about like pulling in those things that support your work. The Dark Moon. So pretty. Divination. I was trying to see if I could figure out which cards, because these look like Samhain Oracle cards maybe, or they kind of do look a little tarot-like. This looks almost like it could be like a Three of Wands. I was trying to figure it out because I'm a nerd, but it's probably unintentional. But part of me was like, I wouldn't mind a tarot deck with this artwork. Elders. And Elders feels very much like wisdom keepers. Elements. I love this. You can clearly see which of these figures is which element, and I love that feeling. Frog. This is so cool. So when you read the entry in the guidebook about the frog card, it's about transformation, and we often think of other things as far as transformation goes, like the butterfly, and it talks about how frogs go through such a similar journey from tadpole to frog. They go through a similar metamorphosis, but we don't often think of them, and they're so like thematically appropriate for this deck as a symbol of transformation. I love that. And then there's of course the witchy lore about turning people into toads and all that. That's kind of fun as well. Graveyard. Greet the darkness. I love this card. Grief. I love that she's got these sort of ribbons tied to her wrists. Kind of makes me think of the way when we're holding on to grief, we're just kind of going through the motions. We become our movement and our actions can become kind of automatic while we're in that space. Haunted. Healer. Intuition. Journey. I love this. This gave me feelings of like a nighttime walk up the Tor. That's what it made me think of. It's really beautiful. Oh my goodness, that bump scared the heck out of me. That is my dog kicking the door because she's having a fit that it's not open right now. That's hilarious. I literally just jumped out of my skin just then. What card was that? Journey. Okay. Mischief. Oh, well, there we go. That's super fun. Nature spirits. Owl. Potions and spells. Protection. Pumpkin. Rebirth. Reflection. Ritual. I love this image. I love this image. Just the circle of candles, or lights, or could be even mushrooms. This could be a fairy ring, but it looks to me like it's meant to be small tea lights and their glow outdoors. It's a really stunning image. Rooted. Seduction. Silence. Spider. I love this because it's a person as the spider. It's a lot more palatable for me than like a creepy spider, actual spider, but it evokes that same energy really strongly. Like it's still an eerie image in its own right, but it feels more accessible to me who doesn't like spiders. Third harvest, which is of course Samhain is the third harvest, the final harvest when we're gathering the last of things before we settle in for the winter. Transformation. The underworld. The veil, referring to, I believe, meant to refer to the veil being thin at this time of the year, and the idea of what the veil is represented in this card. Voices. Witch. Oops, I bumped my camera, sorry. Wolf. And that is it. So really, really beautiful cards. And really gorgeous little poems on each card. And I feel like that leaves space for you to intuit what the card is telling you from those words, to work with those words, to maybe use them to inspire thought or meditation throughout the day. I think it's really a cool way to look at this. So I'm going to zoom this out just a bit. That should be good. Okay. So I'm going to give these a little shuffle. We'll just see. But it's like a nice, it's a classic to me Oracle cardstock. I don't expect this gilding to necessarily hold up particularly well. I haven't had the best luck with brightly colored gilding, so I expect it will chip. That's just the way it is, but I like my decks to be used and to look used, so that doesn't bother me too much. I guess it depends on how well I like the deck, how willing to put up with chipping gilding that I am, but it's just because I'm a riffle shuffler, to me it's just like the cost of doing business, but I don't mind that so much. So let's take a look at the guidebook, and then we'll come back into the cards and maybe look at maybe we'll look at a few, but let's take a peek at this. So I have already been through this guidebook cover to cover, and I was really impressed. First of all, it's color printing on the inside. This right there elevates the cost of things, right? So I'm always really impressed by that. And actually the binding of this looks decent. I think it is just a glued binding, but it's got the little fold. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but some books have a little crease right on the front and the back, so that when you go to open the book, it's folding along that crease. as opposed to folding along the center of the back of the spine. And what I find is that books that fold along the center of the back of the spine, you're more likely to have pages come loose. So it's a small detail, but it's one that I really appreciate. I've mentioned it before. So you get, it's a really beautifully laid out guidebook, and the artwork throughout the guidebook is really a joy to see as well. So you have some information about the authors and about the illustrator and some acknowledgments. Look at these bats. I just love it. An introduction. And then a little bit about the cards, and this is, I believe, where they mentioned, no, it might have been with the authors, about the authors, where they talk about doing more with them. Look at this cat image. I love this. And I like that the guidebook has illustrations that aren't necessarily also on the cards. You get like a bit more, if that makes any sense. So this is where I was first really blown away. When I got into the spread section, you guys, first of all, when you get into the 3-card spread, there are 10 different possible 3-card spread ideas for you to play with here. And then I turn the page and we get into actual spreads. So there's a whole bunch. I don't think I've ever had an Oracle deck or even a tarot deck with this many. I literally had to stop and count them. But there are 13. There are 13 spreads in this guidebook, and they're all like thematically appropriate spreads. So you have Interview Your Deck, this is a good one, and I like the way it's formatted, so I'll probably keep that one. There's a Graveyard spread. There's a Spiritual Counsel spread, Reclaiming My Power, the Rotten Apple, the Transformation spread, a Weekly Outlook spread, the Witch's Tools, the Moon Phases, a Shadow spread, Healer's spread, Coming of Winter spread, and the Athame spread. And I was like, gosh darn it, that's a lot of spreads for a little Oracle guidebook. So that was super impressive to me. And then when you get into the actual meanings of the cards, and they're all organized alphabetically, you have everything you see on the card, and a repeated, the poem is repeated for you so that you can read it here. It's also on the card image that's here, so you can clearly see everything about the deck or the card right here in the guidebook. And they also give you a couple keywords for every card, and I really enjoy that. So for All Hallows Eve, the keywords are emotion and summoning. And what's nice about this is that you get to read about what it is, what All Hallows Eve is, right? So there's information about what that is on the card, and then there's if you have pulled this, and it gives you like your message. It also has a reversed message, which I really appreciate, particularly as I've been working more and more with reversals lately. So you get that for every single card. Now, I did notice, because I did read the entire guidebook all the way through, that there are some sort of themes that seem to repeat a lot. So there is a lot in this guidebook around concepts of death, transformation, letting go. There is a slightly more shadowy aspect to the meanings in general. Not that they're bad. And when I say shadowy, I don't mean... I guess what I mean by that is a little bit more confronting, perhaps, in places. So, like, for example, the Haunted card, the keywords are atonement and company. And in the guidebook here, it talks about somebody who is... It talks about a poltergeist specifically. So it talks... Here, I'll just read this to you. The definition of a poltergeist is an unknown spirit that causes disturbances such as loud noises or moving furniture. In fact, the word poltergeist is German, and it means noisy spirit. Originally, poltergeists were thought to be demons who played tricks, focusing their attention on one specific person. However, theories surrounding the origins of poltergeist disturbances have changed. Many believe poltergeist to be a manifestation of an individual's troubled psyche, as disturbances generally focus on one person. This person is usually in some kind of pain or trauma, either from things done to them or things they've done to others. The poltergeist becomes a physical representation of the pain that has been locked away and left to fester. Eventually, that pain becomes too much for the person to hold, and a poltergeist is born, bringing with it a terrifying display of what was hidden. You have pulled the Haunted card because there's something you must atone for. You've locked something away, choosing to ignore it rather than own up to your mistake. This can be something you have done to someone else, but also something you feel you've done to yourself. Perhaps a choice you'd like to forget, or even a trauma that you never dealt with. Whatever your situation, know that your hauntings will continue until you are ready to face the monster your pain has created. This is especially true if you have also pulled the cards Greet the Darkness or Ghost. And then reversed is, when haunted is in reverse, be warned of the company that you keep. Are you holding on to a victim mentality? Are you allowing your demons to be harnessed for feelings of pity and sympathy? You may not even be conscious of this. Victimization is almost always a defense mechanism, a way to control the amount of hurt and pain you feel. But we all know what happens when you cry wolf too many times. Be sure your hauntings are real and not just a ploy to play the damsel in distress. So again, a more confronting message, right? And there's a lot of those throughout the deck. It's interesting to me because this does not feel fluffy. It doesn't feel cookie cutter in any way. Again, I do think there's a couple cards that have sort of similar feeling themes where we literally have transformation and we also have the frog, and both of those cards are talking about different kinds of transformation. So there are some themes where I feel like maybe there could be some differences where it would be nice to see more differences between the themes. However, because I work with decks like this, typically one card at a time. In fact, the spreads that are in here, I'll be more likely to keep and use for tarot. Part of me wants to jot all of them down and put them in my spread journal, because I'm just really excited by the spreads in here. But I really see myself pulling this 1 or 2 cards at a time, maybe. And gosh, it's so beautiful. Oops. It's just so beautiful. And it really feels like Samhain. Now, I have another oracle that's themed specifically around this time of year, and it's the Halloween Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. And that one is really pretty, but it feels more Halloween than Samhain. This feels very Samhain, which of course was the intent. But I just think it was really successful. And this, again, the artwork, everything about this deck has a much more independent feel. The only difference I would say is that if I was imagining this as an independent oracle deck, it would probably be matte cardstock, I would assume. And that would maybe be the only difference. And I think this would be really beautiful in a matte cardstock. But again, there's something to be said for gloss and the way that it protects your cards. So I'm not mad about it. Oh, it's just so pretty. And the only thing I didn't check is how many cards we have here. Let's just separate these piles here. It should say in the contents. So there are 44 cards. So that's a pretty good size. I'm not mad about it. And again, for a deck that I'm probably going to use mostly in the season of Samhain, so October, maybe November a little bit, this is perfect for me. It doesn't feel like it's too sparse, and I am really, really excited to get into it and start working with it. So I'll be working with it probably for the last half of this month. I'm probably going to work with it over a couple of weeks alongside some of my other decks. So I will definitely keep you guys posted. Look for my October show and tell to hear me talk more about how this actually worked in practice for me. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate you watching this walkthrough. I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Have you already scooped this deck up? Do you plan to? Is it available in your area? If not, don't forget to check out Book Depository, because I definitely lucked out there. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Thank you so much for joining me for this walkthrough of Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle. Please do click the like button if you enjoyed this little talk about this deck. Click the little bell to be notified of my future videos. Subscribe if you're new here. I definitely like to make lots of content about decks, tarot, witchy things, all the good stuff. If you would like to book a reading, you can always do that over at supportivetarot.com. Thank you so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys.